Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Yeah.
My laptop crashed as soon as I
Oh,
pressed play.
perfect. Friday the 13th, man.
Half my screen is black right now.
Well, the whole thing is black for us.
Yeah. Oh goodness,
I can see you guys. I can't see Jared, but
fellas, how we feeling?
curse.
Oh,
Oh,
what a
that's
mess!
that's tough, dude.
You guys might have to exit and come back. Guys, Vince Marrow left the football team.
What a derelict.
So,
Yeah.
here you go. I'm just gonna hang out like this for a bit until we get into the flow of conversation here. What a mess.
That's what we get for trying
The
to stream in the off season on Friday the 13th.
my
Welcome,
my
y'all.
my favorite thing about the Vince story so far was the morning after on KSR, somebody called in and said, "I just gave Vince the L's down at the Dunkin' Donuts in Frankfurt. I saw him." And actually, he Frankfurt halfway between Louisville and Lexington. He was probably driving to Louisville, but I saw him this morning. I gave him the L's down, and he hung up. And then KSR went to break, and Matt Jones came back afterwards, and he said, "So Vince actually called me during the break and said that guy didn't give him the L's down. He flicked me off."
That's amazing.
So they were questioning whether it was real, whether this actually happened. So that corroborated that it was real. But then the guy called back in, and he said, "Well, I did flick him off, but I didn't feel good about it, so I left that part of the story out. But when he pulled his car up next to me, I gave him L's down."
That's amazing. I didn't hear that. That's great.
Yeah. So that's my favorite story of all this
Good
so
Lord,
far.
Jared.
Struggle bus over here.
Am I back?
No,
Is it
not
No.
even close.
Oh my gosh. It's the Catican, baby.
Oh Lord, it might be the last of it too.
Oh man. But yeah, you know what? Honestly, and this is gonna sound rude. Good riddance. You know, like he flirted with leaving so many times.
And to
I
go to
feel
Louisville.
like you guys can't take me seriously right now. It almost looks like you're talking to
You,
straight.
you look like a gear. No, I mean I agree. I agree. I think the funniest outcome here, and I think this is very unlikely, but the funniest outcome here is UK football reaches new heights free from the weight that was
Please
Vince
God.
Marrow. And in fact, we have just Kenny Payne Louisville again, who's hired one of
Oh,
our assistant coaches that has just tanked their program.
please.
I mean, like I said, unlikely, but certainly the funniest.
For sure. Did Jared just leave us?
There are Louisville fans anyway who think that Kenny Payne was an inside job. They think he was sent there to sabotage their program. And given the results, I can't say I blame them.
I was gonna say, didn't he lose like multiple D2 like exhibition games? Like that one is crazy, but two is like okay.
Yeah, I mean, there were some really, really just losses you cannot have, and there were a lot of losses overall,
Well,
including ones that
I
are
remember I
like,
kept seeing the top 10 wins in the Kenny Payne era, but they couldn't fill out the whole 10 for like two and a
I,
half years.
yeah, I think by the end he got a tenth, but like
Ooh,
that's shocking for a program of that caliber to get 10 wins over 2 years
I,
finally. Like that's
unbelievable.
Sassafras in the chat. Did you see the comment from the new commit? No. What was it?
He basically didn't
It-
know who Vince was. He was like, I don't. Am I
well,
supposed to know who that is? Kind of thing. He kind of brushed it. I'm pretty sure that's what she's talking about.
that's encouraging. The only comment I saw that I found really frustrating was there was a 3-star kid who said that he was excited to come in and help us get back on track or something, and that's shameful. Like I don't I don't have high hopes for Kentucky football, but I don't want to be in a position where a 3-star thinks, and I'm like, I'm
That's
super happy
such a.
this guy committed. That sounds insulting, and I don't mean that at all.
I
Uh,
I
but
get what you're
like,
saying.
I want the recruits that are coming here to think that we're on the right track. I don't want them to think that they're here to be our great savior.
Well,
There he is.
I don't care. Hi, Jared. I don't really care as much about it being a 3-star because on the recruiting star, especially in football, I don't give a shit about stars or anything like
Yeah,
that. It's so like look at how many five like it's way more predictable that a 5-star recruit from high school basketball makes the NBA than it is a 5-star football player makes the NFL like in like an impactful way. So for football, I don't really care about that. I just like this. Like, here's the thing: you got to get back on track. How many games do we win outside of a Hail Mary in the SEC? Oh wait, that's none. So something's got to get back on track a little bit. We're Joker Phillips, 2.0 here.
no, for real.
It's not. It's just not though.
If they don't get better, it is what I'm saying.
They're not getting better.
Okay.
They're not. Like I don't even like being that guy because we dealt with it in basketball all before last season started, where they're like, I'm not being negative, I'm being a realist. But it's
Okay,
like
so I said that. Okay.
we've done this dance before.
Yeah, but I think that there's one caveat. It's the transfer portal and like how things are like shit. Like it took a little bit to get used to. I would give them this year, see what happens. I really don't know that. Like I picked the most wins by far out of all of us for the football team, and I'm pretty realist when it comes to like what they are. But I think that you give them this year. I think that they do better than last year. I think there's some real poison pills on the team last year that cost a couple of
Yeah.
games that would have turned the season around. Well, you go from being what they won 3 games to you could be in a bowl game if you don't get screwed in the Georgia game and then have some really stupid, penalties by Key and Barry and Brown against Vanderbilt and a couple other games. It really does balance on a thread a lot of times, like what an average season versus a horrible season. So I think there's a chance that they do some good things next year. I'm not counting it
I
entirely.
I think outside of the whole Vince being the weight that held us back argument, which doesn't carry a lot for me,
True.
the avenue to be optimistic about this is to say that Stoops had it rolling for a while. We had to vacate one of the 10-win seasons, but there were a couple of them. There were some 7-win seasons, 8-win seasons. I mean, we were going and winning bowl games, which is about my expectation for Kentucky football, right? I mean, that's a good feel good ending to the season for me. That's about where I think we should be. I'm happy with that. And then the NIL free transfer era happened, and Stoops really, really struggled. And I think that that's about when he started having his issues. And I think that there's an opportunity now that it seems like to some extent that era is coming to an end, and we're moving into this post-house settlement world that maybe he finds impossible to thrive in this new structure. I don't know. I mean, but if you need an argument, if you need a reason to say like, hey, maybe maybe he turns it around, that's it for me.
I think one thing you can look at is I know it's not the Big 12, not the SEC, right? But like last year, Utah and Oklahoma State were by far the front runners to be, the best teams in that conference. But they finished dead last and second to dead last. You know what I mean? There's something to be said. I think football has a lot more issue with continuity in the transfer portal. That it's kind of depend. It doesn't necessarily mean the biggest group of talent's going to end up, having a successful season. I think it's more of in football. It can be who gels the quickest. And I think that's where, something that you can look to with Kentucky. If they can, like the team can find some camaraderie. It is a low recruiting class. The expectations have never been lower, I feel like, or the predictions. But I feel like there is a chance that they can surprise some people with that, honestly. Lando, fuck you, man. Welcome back.
We got to bring Lando on the show.
Yeah. Open invite anytime, bro. Just
The great debate. Just
Send him the
Braden
link.
and Lando's face off.
Well, he got to show his face to have a face off, but that's fine.
Here's my thing about Stoops, though, is have we seen, and this very well could have happened. I've never claimed to be a smart man. Have we seen where a coach just has his upward trajectory, right, to where it looks like he has peaked, and then essentially just bottomed off
at Kentucky or anywhere?
Anywhere.
At Utah State, Matt Wells went 3-9 in 2016, and then had his best season, or his best 2 seasons. He went 6-7, and then he went 12-2 the next year and got hired at Texas Tech. So yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, but
he won 11 games, 10 games. Yeah, he won 10 games, 11 games, 3 games, 6 games, 12 games, and then got hired at Texas Tech. So yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, well, I'd love to see that here. I'd love to see Stoops get hired somewhere else.
We'll see, man. I think it's difficult to be overwhelmingly optimistic. I mean, we saw the picks that most of us made um, last week on the show. But I mean, maybe Champions Blue is really, really good for Mark Stoops. Maybe he kills it in the rev share era. I don't know. We'll see.
But did you see? I think did Vince was saying that they kind of went away from the Ohio recruiting. I think that may have been just the writing on the wall for him since he was the Ohio guy.
It sounded in a lot of ways like his position was being undercut. It sounded like Stoops was relying more on position coaches to sort of identify talent that they wanted, which seems logical. Seems like he was just relying on other people, and Vince sort of lost his role as right hand man. And also, I think Vince has a really good relationship with Brom. I think he said today that he frankly wasn't going to go to Purdue, didn't want to move like that, but Louisville was different for him, and I think he and Brom played together in the XFL maybe, and so they had some friendship.
The crazy
Obviously,
pull, the XFL.
right.
God damn.
But you know, whatever. I get it. Not
It,
happy with you going to our rival, but whatever.
Because he was making statements on Twitter and everything, and it seems that the fan backlash has taken him by surprise. I don't know why it would. He could have gone anywhere else. I mean, he's turned down positions at other schools before. He turned down Michigan. He turned down Michigan State. Those
He
are just two
literally
off the top of
said
my
that
head.
he took Louisville because he could maintain his friendships at Kentucky.
Yeah, you're not.
No, but that's what he said. He literally said that though. That's what he said because it was he didn't have to break any of those relationships off because he'd be so close. And I mean, even I know that's not true.
I mean, I guess he'll keep his like actual like friendships, but like his
Yeah.
day to day in Kentucky is not going to look the same.
No.
I'm curious about the silo that it seems like a lot of the UK athletic department and coaches are in. I mean, Cal was blindsided by the fact that we were not all upset to see him go. Apparently, Mitch doesn't realize that a lot of people are ready for Stoops to go. Even when he makes certain comments about this being a temporary 1 year blip or something, and it's like, boy, I don't know if you polled the fan base, or at least the fan base that I'm exposed to, and said how many of you think this is a 1 year blip for Stoops versus how many are ready to move on. I think it'd be 80-20 ready to move on. And so it seems like our coaches and our athletic department aren't always getting the vibes that us as fans are putting out, but maybe it's good that there's some insulation there and they don't realize how angry we are, but it does lead to some of this, are you out of touch? No, it's
I
the
never feel
children
like
that are wrong.
Pope totally like he's the first to say they're gonna want to burn down my house like the second we start losing games. Like I feel like he's not really like yeah, maybe because he played here, and that's the biggest thing. But like he doesn't seem to be shocked ever, like when people are pissed when they lose and stuff. But the football program completely seems insulated. They're shocked every like I don't know. The fact that he didn't tell Stoops at all is a little crazy. They seem to they've been friends for a decade plus. I was a little shocked to hear they didn't say anything till the tweet informed Stoops of that. So
Yeah,
that was a
they go
little
way
weird.
back. Sass says, I think UK requested an initial $31 million loan. Some fans think that's for a buyout of Stoops.
They did. It's not. It's for improvements to Kroger Field. I think that's what they said.
So they asked for, I think in total they asked for like 110
110.
million.
Yeah.
110. 40 of it was for, I mean, like if you the slide that got shared, I think only 40 of it added up to improvements. Then there was 31 for like other operational expenses. Then you're thinking like, okay, well maybe that 31 is. And then even if not, and like there's going to be a bunch of new expenses as they form this LLC, they figure out who to hire. I mean, I can see them having operating expenses, especially paying rev share stuff. Like maybe it's for that. I don't know. But even if it's for that, 40 whatever plus 30 whatever, 70. Then you have another 30 that's still unaccounted for there. So I don't know. I do think it would be hilarious if this was Steam UK for a loan to pay the buyout, but
Yeah, I guess
I think
that makes a lot more sense than what I read. Yeah, that I could see that.
You see the
hey,
new
for the record, I don't think that's what it's for, but it would be incredibly funny to me if it was.
Hope Springs Eternal. You know, you can't technically rule it out, and those are my favorite kinds of theories.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ben, did you see the new NCAA rulings on the rev share stuff today? They put
No,
out
I've sort of been out of touch today. What happened today?
mostly just about the rev sharing. Apparently, it's going to start during the 25-26 semester. So it's
Oh yeah, and actually, the House settlement got approved 5 minutes after we ended last Friday.
Oh,
Uh, and I mean, super excited. I think I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, that's not why I'm excited. I just think it's interesting. It's been interesting to follow. Obviously, will change the game for college sports. Um, One aspect is that, and the judge mentioned this in her opinion, that this isn't necessarily saying it isn't an antitrust violation. I mean that isn't what happened here, and so it is still vulnerable to claims that some of these things do violate antitrust law. And a piece of that is that the NCAA and the conferences want to ask Congress to pass legislation that preempts state law that's contrary, sort of like Tennessee, who passed laws saying essentially you can ignore some of this. A law passed by Congress would stop that. It would give them an antitrust violation, and it would kind of bless or antitrust exception, and it would kind of bless the rules of the House settlement. Well, some Congress people put forth some like example legislation to discuss this week, and they hadn't had any kind of conversation at all with the other side, and so it's not at all bipartisan. There's a huge gap in where the parties feel like this should go, and so we aren't as close as I thought we might be to getting that. I don't think the process is in place, but really, in order for this to all work like the NCAA expects it to, they are going to need some legislation preventing them from getting hit with um, some antitrust issues.
now Braden. He's always saying that our viewers and our listeners are really stupid.
I have never said
I
that
wouldn't
one
say
time,
that,
except to Lando.
and I certainly know what antitrust is and what the violations of those mean.
But for the
Look,
idiots in the audience like me, will you go ahead and explain that, Ben?
Yeah, so the issue with antitrust it's what you call the law that like governs monopolies in the United States, and the issue is
the
that
board game.
right, but it's essentially saying, hey, you have too much power, and what you're doing is preventing competition in the marketplace. Here, the marketplace for athletes. So like Sakai Ziegler sued, saying, hey, it's an unfair restraint on business to tell me to have these eligibility rules that say I can't play for a fifth year. And
Tough.
and yeah, right. And for a lot of these people, they're suing on the grounds of, hey, I played D2, that shouldn't count, or hey, I did JUCO and that shouldn't count. And that isn't at all what Zakai said. What Zakai said was, your rule says I can only play four, and I think your rule is illegal. Let me play five. And the judge
They said
didn't,
no.
which I think is good for the long term health of the sport.
Yes, absolutely.
The NCAA's argument was essentially like, okay, well, if your argument is you should be able to play a fifth year because you've got somebody who's willing to pay you NIL, well, aren't they going to be willing to pay you NIL for a sixth year, for a seventh year? When does this stop? You know, if yeah, you're arguing right now just for one more year, but if you give a mouse a muffin, it's just going to keep happening. And so, um, I think that was good. There's been a lot of legislation here, a lot of litigation. It's been really interesting for me to sort of sit back and watch some of this stuff. And now I just want to see how this house settlement stuff plays out. No one knows really how strictly they're going to enforce these fair market value restrictions on NIL. No one knows if that's going to pass legal challenges. Uh, no one knows what they're going to use to determine what the fair market value is for a player. So all of that's going to be really interesting.
Zakai.
Can't wait to see it unfold.
Zakai, put the fries in the bag. Give me my 4-door sedan and Enterprise rent-a-car. Just do it. You're not
He
playing
wants that.
basketball no more.
He just wants uppies, bro. It's okay.
And now for Zakai's response. Hey guys, stop. Let me play. I don't know. I'm bored. This is too much smart guy phrases for me.
Yeah.
Boys, I got the 40 out. It's Friday night.
I thought you wanted
Friday the 13th.
Spooky season.
I liked that the intro played super flawlessly on Friday the 13th. That was great.
It's a good omen.
Your laptop just dies. It's amazing.
So we're playing North Carolina.
Yeah. ACC challenge, right?
Let's chill.
Sex challenge. I thought it's like a decent matchup. I kind of wanted NC State or Duke, obviously, but I'll take UNC and Caleb Wilson. We'll see how that goes.
I can't believe that.
So
right.
Yeah.
I can't believe that from a just ratings perspective, they didn't take the opportunity. Only every 3 years can they set it up where we can do a home and home with Duke because of the Champions Classic, and they didn't do it. You'd think that'd be great. Both programs super excited. I don't think that they really. People said like, oh well, Florida's earned it. I'm like, well, maybe, but it's not like in the past they've always necessarily paired best versus best, and then down the line. So I don't know. I think UNC will be improved over last year. I think Hubert's going to be coaching for his job. I think that it'll be a good game. Big brand name, of course, is exciting, but I also want a Duke or NC State.
NC State at Auburn is who that is, right? That should be interesting too.
The other thing here is that we also won't be able to do a home and home with North Carolina because I think we play them next year in 26-27 in the CBS Classic. So who knows who we get next year?
I think from a strictly just. Was my laptop keeps going out? Were you guys in the middle of talking, or did it stop in the middle of me talking?
We can hear you still, or I can.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Should I quit? Am I back? Like, can you see me?
Yeah, you're good now. Here you go.
Okay. Should I leave?
No, it's good.
So Love Island's about to start, boys. So I can head out at any point.
Oh Lord.
So I think from a strictly name recognition standpoint, is this our best schedule ever?
Including the 2 exhibition games? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you count the 2 exhibition games, absolutely yes. Otherwise, I think it's pretty close with last year. Last year was incredibly underrated. Gonzaga ended up they stayed top 8 in Ken Pom, even if it was kind of a disappointing season for them. Duke, obviously, huge, excellent all year long. Probably better than I think Michigan State's going to be this year.
I'm at Stanford. St. John's instead of Ohio State. It's a good trade-off. And North Carolina instead of Clemson. So it's
at the top end. I think it's probably going to be a little better than last year. I've sort of come around on that initially when I was going line by line. I didn't think so, but Louisville being improved and us playing there, St. John's over. I guess when I was thinking it was going to be UCLA. So at the top end, I think absolutely it's going to be better, especially if you factor in the 2 exhibition games. I'm a little disappointed in the sort of the bye games we've announced.
But what are they? I haven't heard that.
1 second, and I'll tell you sort of what they are and how they compared to.
So we have WKU with Lipscomb. Who else did we play last year? Georgia Southern we play, or Georgia State, something like that. Can't remember.
Yeah, it was Georgia State. So last year, and these are going to be Ken Pom ranks. It was Lipscomb at 89, Western Kentucky at 161, Brown 208, Wright State 214, Bucknell 226, Jackson State 246, Colgate 261, Georgia State 262. So
Georgia
even the
State being
worst
the
team,
lowest of that is crazy to me.
right. And so far for next year, the bye games we've announced are Tennessee Tech is the best at 303. So
Oh, good
already
lord.
your best game is 40 spots worse than your worst bye game last year. Then Loyola,
Damn.
Maryland 305, North Carolina Central 324, Bellarmine 347. Bellarmine got rid of their coach, hired their coach's son. Can't see them being much improved, um, even though they were nearly one of the worst teams in the country. Our
Wow,
MTE
that's
still needs to be announced, so maybe we get two better teams there, marginally. But also as part of that, we have to add a team from the SWAC, none of whom are good. So you know you're going to have another bummer there. Um, so that's a little disappointing. I think that we ended up with like the 80th ranked strength of schedule last year, even with all of our big names, because we or 80th ranked non-con strength of
right,
schedule.
right, right.
Third overall. The SEC really pushed us over the top, but
Yeah.
um, the issue is that all of these other teams play these big Thanksgiving MTE tournaments, right, against other high majors. Meanwhile, for revenue purposes, we host our own, and that's fine. Like I'm happy with that trade-off, but I'm happier with that trade-off if the teams that we're playing are in the low to mid twos and not the mid threes, right?
I wonder what the preseason would have been on some of those though, like last year, right? Because I was shocked because Lipscomb ended up in the top 100. I wouldn't imagine they were
Right,
predicted to be there. You know, I mean,
man.
obviously that it is pretty bad when the best one is like not even top 290. You know,
So
that's rough.
our MTE, like I said, hasn't been announced yet. We've got three more games that are going to be coming there. That's what Lipscomb was. That's what WKU was. Those were our two best of those bye games last year. So
Sure.
there's opportunity to be a little better. But
Mm.
man, that there's no way to bring up the very bottom in there.
That's
If you're
what
playing
is it?
350s and
334 teams or something like that. That's damn near the bottom of the
yes,
barrel.
like 364, and we played 347. Like that's not great. Also, shout out Jimmy Jam from the Loyal BBN Fan Show. Thanks for watching. Congrats again on 500 videos the other day.
Very
Right
cool.
on.
He had a question for us. Let me ask you guys why. Duke played Auburn last year in the challenge. Why this year they get to play at home against Florida 2 games in a row?
I mean, I don't know how it works. I don't know what the
Duke
rules are
fan.
as far as
Yeah, it's
seems like the
bad
Duke
look for
brand
sure.
buys you some. Yeah.
I assume that just the way that it works out with their conference having more teams that are than ours, and so each year every one of our schools plays, and they have some that have to sit out. This year it just so happened to be the California schools, I think, that aren't going to participate. Maybe maybe the way that worked, it just wasn't even. Like there wasn't another away game to schedule. But it is kind of suspicious that it's Duke getting another. I won't say cupcake. I think Auburn's going to be, or Florida's going to be very good.
Yeah.
But it is suspicious they get a second home game in a row.
Who'd Alabama get?
Clemson,
Oh, okay. That's fun.
and so they're capable. Alabama and Clemson have football rivalry stuff.
That's
I
true.
was hoping I was hoping for Alabama Louisville. I think that'd be fun stylistically. Um,
That's true, Eddie.
Good point, Eddie. I like that. Be fun. All right, anybody. If you have any questions, get them in. We'll answer whatever. Ask, as personal as you want for
That's
Braden and Braden only.
that's let's not do that, but
Found out my neighbor has a Dodge Charger that he just bought.
is he?
I
No.
learned that just now because I can hear it.
Nice.
I had to get up and check, and I was like, "Oh, that's going to be great for me and my 3 kids who are sleeping."
Love it. Calcutta wants to know who we have in the NBA Finals.
I was literally just about to say I have no idea about anything about basketball anymore if the Pacers win this damn title. I swear to God, like it doesn't make sense to me. But I think the Pacers are gonna do it because I just think there's no way. And they keep proving me wrong every single series. So
Yeah, going Pacers. Team of Destiny vibes, honestly. That's what it feels like.
Absolutely, it feels that way. You saw that shit bounce up 3 million feet in the air and then drop in the Garden game one. It's nuts, dude. Like that. Like with, there's just no way. I think Halliburton's got 5 game winners where no one else had ever had 2 game winners in a single playoff run. Like, bruh, like I can't even hate on it. Again, proving why the Kings are the worst franchise in the NBA because they're out in the market for a point guard. Believe it or not, right now.
What a year for Halliburton, too. Olympic gold medal, NBA championship.
And bro, he didn't play in the
Also-
Olympics, but I think that's why.
also- What was it? He voted by players as most overrated in the NBA, and then to come out and do this is good for him.
The most ethical hooper. He has 0 free throw attempts through 3 finals games. Okay.
I'd like to see the Thunder win for SGA and Kaysen.
I mean, the 15 Thunder went, or 15 Warriors went down 2-1 against that Cavs team, but they ended up winning the whole thing. So there's some similar vibes, but damn it if it doesn't seem like the Pacers are going to do this thing, which will just totally wreck like ring culture in the NBA, which I'm here for because we need to settle that argument different ways other than just rings. And I think Halliburton winning it will just prove that rings don't matter that much. So
I mean, they matter a little bit.
I mean, tiny bit. Robert Horry would say they matter a lot. He got 7 of them.
Jimmy says, what do you guys think our record will be in the non-con? We still need 3 more teams to finish it. Michigan State, Louisville, Gonzaga, North Carolina, Indiana. We get Gonzaga again? Am I dumb? I was counting out Gonzaga. We do?
No, yeah. This year and maybe next. I don't know if it's done this year or not.
Gonzaga and Logan's going to go crazy. I can't wait to go to that game. That's a conference game next year, boys. I cannot wait for that.
Yeah. Okay, so
I think you have 1 loss in there. I think somewhere you're going to drop a game. You're not going to go, undefeated. I think you drop one of those. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know much about Michigan State, but I always do get concerned playing Michigan State in the Champions Classic. But that's been in previous years where Michigan State has Izzo and we have Calipari. So we would typically get worked by Izzo. But Gonzaga's a bit of a concern. They typically are. I mean, they're good year in, year out. Where's the Indiana game at? Is that in Rupp or is that in Assembly Hall?
I use in Rupp. We actually have Gonzaga three more games in that series. We get Nashville this year, then Nashville this year, then Rupp, then on campus and at Gonzaga in 2027. So
yo, that counts crazy.
I'm taking like L's this episode, man. I got to brush up on the schedule.
Yeah, I use in Rupp this year, then in Indy neutral at Lucas Oil, then Rupp again, then at IU in 2028.
I think we lose to St. John's.
I don't see it.
I think we could. I don't know. It's obviously we know a lot more about our team this year than we did last year because we have Owe back. We've got some returners. We've seen a couple of these guys in conference that we picked up. But also, I think we also have a ton of questions still. I mean, we don't know when JQ is going to be healthy. We hope beginning of the season that'll super help with the team meshing, but maybe not. We want Chandler to improve some, BG to improve some. I just think we have a lot of questions. So I don't know if everyone plays as well as I expect them to. Not even like optimistic expectation, but what I think to be realistic. I think we'll be pretty good, and we may only drop a couple of those games. But also, I think a lot of those teams are going to be good. Gonzaga is always good. Michigan State, I think, should be pretty good again. Louisville should be improved. UNC, I hope improves over last year for their own sake. IU, we'll see. I think DeVries is a good coach. So some of those are losable. St. John's obviously the toughest of them in my mind, but
them or Louisville, yeah.
This is the first time in a decade that I've been more than like a little bit concerned that we lose to Louisville in basketball, which is nice. That's not to say I do think we lose. I'd need to see it.
You're
for me to
right.
believe it. But it's the first time where it's like, oh, okay, well, we're playing at Louisville. That could be interesting. I wouldn't, just Sharpie it in as a W as I would in previous
No, I
years.
think it's them or St. John's in that list that we gave, or that we were looking at, that would be the toughest. I think Gonzaga is going to be. I mean, a coin flip. Their recruiting's been okay, but it's not been. I mean, the portal era has definitely been different for them. But I think those are the two toughest out of those 6 or 7 games we were looking at.
We are going to lose to Purdue out of the gate too.
I don't know, man. Oh, an exhibition.
We'll
I
see.
mean, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I know that who they have back, but like, all right. I mean, Zach Edey helped a lot of that, but that's fine. I didn't think they were very good last year. I don't know. I don't. Purdue, just white boys. Maybe they're good enough to be ranked number 1 preseason. Who knows?
I'm gonna say it's the hero.
Oh yeah, agree.
You're not gonna catch me slipping, buddy. We're gonna win multiple championships in the next 5-10 years.
Well, you better hope so. With the money we're spending, that's the goal for sure.
Winning Gabriel to Louisville, according to Peanut Butter Posse. I don't know what else. Do you think we had 2 games of the 3 before the Louisville game, a couple to get ready? Yeah,
probably.
I don't know. So I think that the 3 that we're missing, right? So that we haven't yet announced what our MTE, our multi-team event, is going to be, which is a 3-game event for us. Last year it was Lipscomb, WKU, Jackson State. We have an obligation to play 1 team from the SWAC every year. And so last year that was Jackson State as part of the MTE. I assume that that's going to be in our MTE again, and that hasn't been announced yet. I also assume they're going to announce all 3 of those games together. Last year it was played over the course of a week, maybe like a Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday kind of thing. And so I don't know. I mean, if we do that, it might be tough to fit all 3 of those before the Louisville game. Just, I don't know. Depends totally on
early. It's super early in the schedule.
I'd certainly like some warm-up games before then, but who knows? Also, Lando, why is that an obligation? It's just something we agreed to do. It was like a 5-year agreement when Cal was here. We call it the Unity Series. I think it's been good. I appreciate that that's something that we do. I know that it's a huge fundraiser for them. Those buy games are incredibly important to funding the athletic departments of HBCUs. So I think it's good. It's just funny that we this year we also scheduled, was it Tennessee Tech? Who is are they OVC? No, not Tennessee Tech. Who is it?
You meant Big Hog to Louisville is in Vince Marrow. Right. And then he said, "No, I got to get rid of the little piggy." I'm in agreement with Peanut Butter Posse here.
I think you're gonna get your wish.
We do play at Arkansas this year. That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah, they're only playing once though, right?
Yeah.
It was like cinema last year. I know we lost that game, but that was like an event. Should have had it done twice, but nope.
Talking in the chat, you guys see that? You guys see the Aberdeen vert photo?
Yeah, with his man bro on, for sure.
That was sick.
I'd love to get some measurements from that pro day or whatever it was that they did today. I mean,
yeah.
Cam Williams looked great, and Aberdeen looked great. Some of these guys can jump. I think also that should put to rest some of the conversation about the team not being athletic last year. I think that obviously that was a point of emphasis, and it looks like we nailed it.
Oh yeah.
Boys, we're running out of topics fast. This off season is
it's the off season.
Hey, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. We can tap at any point, bro.
Or For
Sorry, I was just
Eddie
being
Congress. Eddie Congress says he thought that the HBCU thing was just a PR outreach thing. I think it is,
Oh God,
but also
like
we did,
reparations.
and I think we signed a contract with the SWAC to do it for 5 years, and I think this is the last year that may get renewed, but I do think that we have to play a SWAC team every year through this year at least.
I was just gonna let that one go. If we're still doing hashtag Jared to field a 68, I can't be,
Oh,
non-controversial.
Yeah,
Just ignore with a winning Gabriel comment earlier. Then we'll
yeah,
stay squeaky clean around here.
absolutely.
I am working on some more content that's not the live streams for the channel this week, so that'll be fun. Ben, we got to get together for the whenever this court stuff is done. We'll go full lawyer mode on it. I'll a little cat courtroom background. We'll both get in some suits, and you and me will have a sit down, counselor.
No, I think that'll be good. I need to finish reading through it. So there's a lot to sort through. I also think like this year or this week they started revealing information about the how the rev share stuff is going to work a little bit. Like just today they released some document that talked about buyouts, and if you have a buyout and someone transfers to your school, that's going to count against the school that took you's rev share cap. So some new concepts we hadn't seen anywhere else. Excited to dive into that, learn a little bit about it. But really, the answer is ultimately going to be we're just not going to know until we see some of this in action. Um, it's really starting soon, though. Any deals agreed to after last Friday are subject to the new rules. I mean, if you're Desmond Claude, who committed on Saturday morning or whatever it was,
Yeah.
that's a shame. You should have done it Friday, because now all of your NIL deals are going to have to go through scrutiny from this new Deloitte clearinghouse, and no one knows how that's going to go yet. So we'll see.
I'm gonna just sit on that same video like a juror. I won't say anything. I'll just be on mute. I just want to learn, So I'm gonna listen in.
We should format it like the like how they zoom into court and stuff like that. And if anybody's seen the video, Brayden, I think you know what to be.
What's your name? Oh, it's not BF 9000. You yahoo! Yeah, I love that judge, bro.
You guys see the one where it's the it's like traffic court, or a guy was driving on suspended license and he was in his car.
No, but he ended up being vindicated, bro.
Yeah,
he was in the right. But yeah, they use the stadium pulse on that meme all the time.
All right, we got some new ones. I love how Pope not just dying all the smoke and top-ranked matchups, but more so how one can see how serious he is about that. Peanut Butter Posse, can we just spend $110 million on basketball and let them play football at various high school stadiums around Kentucky? Base Peanut Butter Posse. He's Caleb Pilled. Let's go.
That's great. I love that opinion. I agree. Let's go.
And he says, Ben, Jay Billis said the settlement will cut down on the transfer portal significantly and possibly make high school recruiting important again. Do you agree?
I think that's another wait and see kind of thing. We really have no idea. I mean, how much schools are going to be able to spend on basketball. So you've got this $20.5 million cap, and this is complicated, so bear with me. The first $2.5 million in new scholarships, which are scholarships that weren't allowed last year, right? So if we think baseball is the big example, because they went from like 11.7 permitted scholarships for a team of 34 to keeping the roster limit at 34, but now 34 scholarships are allowed. So if you fill those up, you're adding what, 20 new scholarships?
Yeah.
The first $2.5 million of new scholarships you add counting against your rev share cap. And any big athletically driven school is going to do that. Texas is adding like $9 million, way over that. So what that does is it takes your $20.5 million cap and drops it down to 18. The average SEC school is only expected to spend like $3 million on basketball, and it's easy to see that's just not going to work if we keep things the way they are now in terms of the market for players. That'll buy you 1 year of Ortega away services at our current prices.
Right.
So if we just don't have money to go around, then maybe, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think maybe you aren't luring guys out with these huge offers like you were, but also there are still going to be schools that want to pay player A more than another school, and that player is going to go wherever he thinks he fits. I don't know. So we'll see. It's possible they don't successfully cut down on a lot of the booster stuff.
I think the contracts are going to be the biggest thing. Like if you get a high school kid to sign a contract that has buyouts that have, poison pills for the next school, I think that's where it'll really, if you can do that and limit some of the or make the penalties greater than what it would be the benefit of transfer, I think that's where like Billis is counting on it, like cutting down significantly. And at least that's what it seemed like he was saying to me when I looked into that. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to work. It's not going to be sustainable. Somebody's going to challenge this, and I just feel like the whole thing's not. It's a house of cards right now. I feel like.
I think that could be true, especially given that document they released today, like I was mentioning, where if a player has a buyout as part of their rev share contract, then the school that's paying that buyout, that counts against their rev share. I mean, they have to absorb that as a cost that's going to count against them. So if you're successful at planning this, you can probably use that to retain some players, because I think all these schools want to use that money pretty efficiently. But also, we didn't have the cap that year or this year, but multi-year contracts have been on the table. You could do it if you could get a student to agree to it.
Even if they do agree to it, they might just end up at BYU, Baylor. I mean, it happens. But
in Dan Poneman, it was he didn't use a name. I assume this is Ali Khalifa. He did an AMA in Trilly's Discord and talked about the contract he was negotiating for a player who was redshirting for a year, and how they were going to make NIL work for that. And what they did was a multi-year contract. I assume it had a buyout. I don't know. I don't know how else you really enforce a multi-year contract in that way. But that was an option before, and just people weren't doing it.
I like to see. I wonder if it goes closer to like a European football model, where you do have like the transfer windows. So you have schools like kind of negotiating the transfer fees for other ones. I think that would be an interesting route to go. I don't know how that really I don't know all the details of that.
Honestly.
But it's a model they could copy. Jimmy asks, Braden, Jared, Ben, where are you guys from?
Logan, Utah originally. I live in Sacramento now. So
I'm outside Louisville, live in Charlotte, North Carolina now.
I am from Virginia Beach, Virginia, but my dad's from Lee County, Kentucky, so hence the Kentucky fanhood there. Gonna skip some Lando chats so we don't get flagged by YouTube right after we.
Where is Trill Rafferty? Where is he? We don't. You goddamn it, Trill.
Jimmy says Garrison and Lowe have 2-year contracts. Pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Keep hearing about the rev share stopping kids from transferring. Top mid majors will start portaling, right?
I don't know. We signed a couple kids at Utah State to multi-year deals. So there'll be some pretty hefty buyouts on a couple of kids, but probably, yeah. I mean, especially I think low major kids are the ones you'll see transfer the most, because the schools literally do not have the budget. Mid majors are have a little more money than you think, and can walk it. But I think a kid from like North Dakota or something like that has a great year is going to transfer absolutely.
I wonder if the transfer portal slows down. Sorry, if you were gonna piggyback off what he just said, I was gonna slightly deviate off of what he said.
I was just gonna say I think that your high major transfers may slow down some, just because everyone's gonna have roughly the same pool of money. Maybe some deviation there. Some guys will probably transfer if the fit isn't great, but like I said a second ago, I don't think you're going to be able to just coax some guy into the portal with a huge cash offer. That
Right.
said, mid majors that have less money may not be in the same boat. Low majors certainly aren't going to be. I mean, if you're in a position where you're struggling to fund your athletic department, you certainly aren't going to have millions of dollars to pay players to compete for you. And so I'd expect mid major guys still are going to. They're going to want the exposure that comes along with playing at a high major. They're going to want the fact that we have more money. The A10, I think, is going to do pretty well here. I think that the Big East will do exceptionally well. But I'd expect mid major guys to be transferring still.
You'll have a lot of the downward trajectory too. Like there's a kid from Vanderbilt signed at Utah State. Like kids that don't play a ton at the highest level of college will find their way down to make some playing time out of that too. You know what I mean? Like I think basketball in a fine place. I think it's football going to die because or like split off into another FBS FCS type situation with the top 40 and then the rest of everybody else. But that's kind of what it feels like. You know, Kentucky's in the SEC, so at least they get a shot.
I do wonder. So if kids are staying around longer because they're not being pushed out the door for the professional leagues now that they can get paid, and if they do get locked into multi-year deals, I do think that could help the mid majors more, especially in terms of high school recruiting, because there's just going to be less spots in the rotation left. So would you rather be the 12th man at Tennessee, or do you want to go start at New Mexico? You know, or maybe not 12th to starting, but you guys see what I mean.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Utah State's getting 4-star players now, so
Yeah,
it looks like it is leveling off, and the rising tide lifts all boats. So I think
and where there's
everybody
15
wins.
spots, I actually think the transfer portal has been beneficial to mid-major schools like Utah State. Obviously, I'm biased here, but I think that there is like we've seen. I mean, we've had 3 different coaches in 3 years, or 4 and 5, and have had great success either way. Like with completely new teams. Like 2 of the seasons we had completely new rosters. Had great seasons because you have you can fill those spots with guys. I think it's a lot harder in football where the depth is a bigger deal than it is in basketball. I think it's a little easier to rebuild and reload with the transfer portal if you're smart with it. But so I don't find it to be, I think it's actually been healthy somewhat for college basketball because, you even got, no shade to Great Osceola, he gave, Utah State a great season when he was here, but, he went and made $2 million for them to win like 4 games in the Big Ten, So I think there's been some equalization out, with, making things work with less money versus just the biggest spenders aren't the biggest winners. Whereas in football, it seems like the biggest spenders will be the biggest winners typically, just because of the overall cost and things like that. So I think basketball's in a healthy place. I think football is very precarious for anyone not in the SEC or the Big Ten. I think even the Big 12 and the ACC, would be pretty concerned about their standing in football, in the football work, because it kind of seems like a power 2 there versus the power 4 or 5.
I will say I read through that NCAA Q&A thing today, and when I saw it, they did not technically rule out any sort of Title IX implications from the rev share. So I could see where a lot of schools would gear a lot more of that towards football, since you wouldn't run into as much Title IX implications after that. But if you are allotting X amount of money to men's basketball, I think Title IX would mean that you'd have to do that for the women's team as well.
Is it
Not that I'd have a
by
problem with that.
sport, or is it by like men's sports and women's sports?
Oh.
Like if you put, because I know there's no equivalent on the women's side of things to football, but I think it's men's sports versus women's sports. Maybe I'm
Field
wrong.
hockey getting flooded with funds.
Oh, roller derbies just getting brand new unis every week.
I think the argument is if you're arguing against Title IX applying here, which I'm not necessarily doing, I think the argument is Title IX requires equal opportunity via scholarships, which we do.
Okay.
And if and I mentioned Texas's plans for how they're going to expand their scholarships. They already have more women getting scholarships, and they're going to increase the lead of women over men in terms of number of scholarships even more. What Title IX hasn't required is that money be spent equally across the sports. And we know that because football budget probably is larger than the rest of the athletic department overall at most of these schools.
By far. Yeah.
You're not spending the same amount of money on the sport, but you are providing the same number of scholarships. And so if you take that view and you view these rev share expenses just as like the cost, a budgetary cost of fielding a competitive team,
Yep.
then that wouldn't. I think that the term of art used is like athletic financial aid, and that's what has to be kind of even here. And so I don't know. It's tough. I think politics it's going to annoy people. That's going to come into it. The previous presidential administration and the current one have very different opinions as to how Title IX should apply to this.
Yeah.
And so that's going to get involved and get messy.
It's such a shit show.
A group of female athletes have sued, or not sued. They're appealing the back pay portion of the House settlement. We're mostly concerned about the forward-looking how this is going to affect college sports, but a big part of this is there's $2.8 billion worth of money that the NCAA and conferences are paying to past athletes from the past 10 years who were deprived of money from jersey sales and football game or video games, and the distribution scheme of that money is roughly what people think is going to happen here. 75% football, 15% men's basketball, 5% women's basketball, 5% other. And so they're suing and actually, or appealing rather, and holding up the payments from that, saying, hey, Title IX should apply to this. They said they're not holding up the payments going forward. They're not trying to screw any of that up. But logically, if a judge rules, yeah, Title IX applies to that back payment, there's no reason it wouldn't
Should
also
apply to the
apply
future.
going forward. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, definitely something that's going to be challenged. I think the antitrust stuff is going to be challenged, and at least until they get an antitrust exemption from Congress. And I know they were optimistic of that getting done soon. They had a long hearing about it the other day. And like I said, the political parties seem pretty far apart. One wants to give wide protection to the NCAA. The other party thinks that is problematic and sort of undercuts all of the progress that athletes have made recently in terms of taking control of their brand and being able to get paid. And so I mean, all this to say, we're very much not settled. Not only do we not know how any of this stuff is going to be enforced, we don't know what's going to be enforceable. We don't know what's going to last and survive these challenges.
Antitrust sounds like my ex, for real.
Oh my God.
Anything else you guys want to get into before we wrap it up for the night?
Honestly, no. I don't think I have anything, truthfully.
All right. So, hey, how about next episode we do show and tell, since we're quickly running out of material?
That works. Let's do it.
Or should we make a PowerPoint presentation? The boys do a PowerPoint on just whatever topic you want.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm here for it. Whatever you want.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining the Catican. Thank you for hanging out. Please like and subscribe. We are dangerously close to 600 subscribers, and that's very cool. We will have better and more interesting content coming out soon as more interesting information comes out.
Someday.
I think with this new blueprint, this was what the UK Sports Network is calling their coverage of the preseason practice stuff. Super excited to see that. I know something came out today. Haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Just really excited to see this team start to gel. Looks like they're already pretty comfortable with each other. I think we have a ton of talent, and it's going to be fun to watch this process.
Oh yeah.
All right, everybody. For Braden, for Ben, I'm Jared. Thank you for joining the Catican, and go Cats.
Go Cats.
Yep.